Good afternoon, everyone. It's a busy time of year for our organization, for all NHL organizations, with the draft, of course, yesterday and today, with free agency opening on Tuesday, with the moves that teams make to shape their roster. This is likely, outside of the trade deadline, maybe even as much or more so at times, the opportunity for teams to do that. I know you'll have questions that we'll get to in time. Today will be more about the draft, that process, the players that we selected. We'll be doing media availability here in the days to come, where we can get into some of the other questions that you might have with respect to free agency, our roster speculation that's out there at different times surrounding our team. So with the draft this year, it was a little bit of a different draft. I think most teams would agree it didn't quite have the depth that last year's draft did, or a traditional draft does. We had 6 selections going into the draft. We, for our first 2 selections, used an additional pick to move up in the draft, which led us to be able to select players that our scouts really liked. So we felt really good about how today went. Obviously, no pick last night in the first round, but real good work by our staff today. I've said to you guys before, the amateur scouting staff, the work extremely hard. They are in every rink across Canada, the U.S., Europe. They cover all the players that are eligible for the draft. It's a really big endeavor. It's different than pro scouting. Pro scouting is more continuous, where the work you've done one year might lead into the work you do the following year. The amateur draft opening day of the scouting season is the Ivan Holinka tournament this year in Slovakia. That is early in August. That's when the scouting year begins. It culminates each year with the draft. This year it was done virtually. I might add, with respect to the virtual draft, you had a chance firsthand to experience the draft in person last year, and the magnificent spectacle that it is. It's unique to our sport. It's a gathering of all people in the industry, whether it's teams, scouts, general managers, the media, player agents, hockey fans in general that oftentimes go each year to the draft. You find it is a time of year where might be the only time of year you see a person, but you keep those relationships intact. As you may have heard Commissioner Bettman refer to the willingness or the eagerness of the NHL teams to go to a virtual draft. The vote was 26 to 6 in favor of the format that we used these past 2 days. I will tell you that we were one of the 6 teams that voted to keep the draft as an in-person event, unique to our sport, as the reasons I just touched on. So from that standpoint, we have always enjoyed having the in-person draft. I think the chance to bump into general managers, to bump into player agents, to have those discussions, I think are really important and outweigh the benefits of a virtual draft. With respect to the draft today, in the second round, we took, I'll maybe let Bobby speak to the players, if you'd like to touch on that. Bobby, who we selected today, and a little bit about each player.
Yeah. So like Kelly said, we kind of looked to do more quality than quantity. So we had 6 picks. We just felt in this draft with our approach that if we could move up and get into some layers of players that we really liked by using other picks or multiple picks, it would benefit us. So with Jacob Wozniak, we feel we're getting a real good size power forward with skill, can score, can make plays. And we were really excited to be able to get up to 55. We went from, even though it was a few picks, we just were waiting for him, and we didn't know if we'd get to our pick at 58. So we did a pretty great job, I think, of leveraging that. And then we did the same in the third round, going from 91 to 85, doing the same thing, using 2 picks and moving up. And Matteo Nober, we took a kid out of the Quebec League that we think has great upside. I think two-way forward that has skill, can play both sides of the puck, is very raw, and will need some time to develop. But we feel in 3 or 4 years we're going to have a hell of a player. And then it was a waiting game. We just waited to the 6th. I think it was an interesting draft. There's a lot of picks being traded. We were just patient, and then we had some guys that we wanted to target in the 6th round, and we were able to. Alex Wehrmeyer, who was an older player, we did much the same thing with Trent Swick last year. We picked a 19-year-old player that was going to go back for his 20-year-old year that had a very good year. We just think it was good value. We did it with Trent last year, and we ended up signing him. I think Alex showed much the same improvement throughout his career, and in the year he had in Portland. And then with the Solquist kid, it was an interesting Gustav. We had him on our list last year as a big Swede that we'd maybe take in the 7th. We decided at the time to trade our pick with Washington, and it was the pick that we ended up picking him this year. But he's an interesting player. He made the All-Svenska team in Sweden, had a very, very good year. Was a guy that in February, we saw him at the U20 tournament in February over in Europe. And then our guys just started watching him from there. He won the most improved player on his All-Svenska team. And we just think with his size and his skill, with his raw ability, there's a lot of improvement there to come. And we just think it was a great time to pick him. And it was interesting that we used the pick that we traded back, or we traded last year to get a 6th-round pick. So we were happy with our draft. We felt that not a lot of picks, but quality over quantity.
Which brings us into development camp, which begins on Monday. We're doing development camp differently this year. It's pretty much half the size of what it has been traditionally. We'll have I think in general terms, there'll be 14 forwards, 9 defensemen, and 2 goaltenders is what we're looking at for the camp. So that'll lead to a little bit of a different format. The ice sessions will be more, similar to watching an NHL practice. And we'll do the evaluation that way, a little less time on the ice, wrapping up a day earlier. That's what we'll be doing with development camp. Those players will travel tomorrow. The player that we drafted, Solquist, today, where is he on vacation?
Yeah, it's Cyprus.
And then has to fly back to Stockholm, then Stockholm to Las Vegas. So he's going to miss day 1, understandably, but he'll be here for the final portion of development camp. He's not a player that'll be able to come over for rookie camp. So, we'd like to meet him, have him see our facilities and meet the people that are in the organization. So he'll get here. After missing the first day. He's got a big travel day ahead of him tomorrow. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you might have. Sorry?
Yes, in Cyprus. Yeah. Actually, Voida, I think Kuchera has been in Cyprus. He says pretty good spot. So trading flippers for skates.
So. Kelly, in terms of yesterday, do you anticipate maybe another vote coming from the other GMs to maybe go back to the format, seeing how yesterday was so bogged down, especially you guys didn't have a 1st-round pick? I'm sure it probably went longer than you probably would have thought.
Well, Danny, it's tough to find anybody that voted in favor of the virtual draft. It's like finding people that voted for Nixon. And I will be surprised if we do not revert back. It's not a decision for me. All I can have is the opinion of our organization. And we when we were asked about it, we took the responsibility pretty seriously. We, had a list of pros and cons and how it impacts Bobby's staff. And I think in fairness to the teams that voted in favor of a virtual draft, we held our draft in a big boardroom over at F&F, where we did our year 1 work before City National was built. And it's easier. The actual draft process is easier because you can talk to the guy at the end of the table. You can have video on monitors if need be. You can listen to the draft coverage, and I think that part of it is likely the reason that it changed. Back to that, I think that what we looked at, and I've touched on it already, is I just feel it's so special to our sport. We're the only sport that does it that way, and it'll come up. We'll have a discussion, and we will see, I guess, what the NHL thought of how the draft went, what the other teams thought about it. But I guess I would say to you, I'm hopeful that it does revert back, because that's how we felt all along.
Bobby, has Wozniak represented Sweden internationally, and when he has, where does he slot in their lineup? Does he play in the third line for them?
Oh, he played with Frondell on the first line.
So he played the first line.
Yeah, with Frondell, right wing, first power play unit. It's interesting. He didn't have the best Helinka tournament, he'd tell you. He played as an underage the year before in the under 18. Very excited about seeing him for the year, and then his Helinka tournament, he'd tell you that. We interviewed him at the combines. He said that his Helinka tournament wasn't good enough, and then I think he thought it was going to be kind of a little bit easier for him. He even said that. I don't think he prepared himself mentally for the year, and then his team did a really good job with him, just making sure. They were developing him the right way, making sure he's competing harder on pucks, using his size, because in Helinka he just seemed to not want to engage. And as the year went on, he started to engage, and even said, the more I engage, the better I play. And we said that as well. And because the skill's all there, the size, the skill, the ability's there. He just needs to engage at times, and he can get a little bit off a little bit, but I think at the end of the year he's way more consistent in that area, and knows that that's something he has to work on. I don't think it'll be an issue. I just think it was something that he just needs to add to his game.
So he's at the top of his age group
in his age group. He's in the top 6 for sure. Yeah. With Sweden. He'll push for a U20 spot, I think, for the World Juniors for sure. In a country that's very deep, and we're really excited about him. We were when we got him, the guys started clapping, so it was pretty.
Nobert had a kind of a quiet first year in the Quebec League, and then really exploded this year. What is the development? I know it's an art, not a science, but what's the arc for him?
He was really small in his draft year. Our Quebec League scouts, they're really dialed in. They knew this kid as a young guy. He was like 150 pounds his first year as a 16-year-old. He's 173 pounds now. I think he played at 160 last year. We tested him. We did some tests. He wasn't at the combine this year, but we were able to test him outside the combine. And we really feel confident that he's got the body that he can put some weight on and be much stronger. I think we're going to see real strides in his game this year coming up. The team he plays on in the Quebec League loaded up. They traded for Zonin, and they're looking to go for the championship, and he'll be the first-line center. So we're excited about his development and what he brings. He has a real solid two-way game, very, very, very smart player. Our guys, think that, he can eventually hopefully play on a third line and center a third line. And, it's going to take some time in his development, but we're really excited about where he plays, the opportunity he has there, and his future development.
Bob, going back to Wozniak, he talked a lot about he likes his offensive game. He thinks he's more centered around there. What about his offensive game kind of works with what
skill? Can shoot the puck, can handle the puck, can make plays. Maybe is not a total driver of a line, but very, very good complement with his size, with his power, with his both ability to score and play make. He played the opposite side of Frondell, so they played both the flanks on the power play. On the offside, he was more of the shooter. than the playmakers. So Frondell would throw it across so he could one time it. He gets around the puck real well, like with his body and with his stick. He plays long. He's big, can be strong on the puck. I think with our development, physical development, I think we can get him to be a good sized power element with his game as well as the offensive skill.
For Kelly, now that you're heading into the next phase of the offseason, what is the organization's, status on where Alex Petrangelo's health is, and do you expect him to be available this season?
We're going to know more on that in the coming days. Alex and I have had a number of discussions. There's some things some decisions that need to be made that will be, when I spoke in the opening about some of the things that we think we'll have more clarity on in the coming days, that'd be one of those things that we would talk about then.
Kelly, it seemed like another one of the topics when discussing whether to decentralize the draft or not was just how close it was to free agency and maybe being home to prepare for that. Did you find over the last couple of days that preparation and trying to get ahead of free agency was easier being here and not being all in one location?
Well, free agency is always July 1st, so it depends a little bit what days or what dates the previous Friday and Saturday are. So I stand to be corrected, but I think we have an extra day this time around. So, we've had, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I know we flew from Montreal. The draft was in Montreal, however many years ago that was. So the draft is such a big process. There's so much work that goes into it. So you get through that, and then you're getting on a plane flying back from, for us it was Montreal back to Vegas, and then getting ready for an incredibly important time of the year. So last year, for example, in Vegas, because there was, just that short of turnaround, I know of a handful of teams that stayed in Vegas after the draft and did their free agency, from here. Personally, I like to be back in our war room and have access to, any of the materials or video that we would want to have to prepare. So that's, we would always come back, but it's not the same each year, I guess is what I'm saying. And I think in terms of the motivation to go virtual, certainly that was one of the considerations.
The changes you decided to make to the dev camp, shrinking the number of players, what were the pros and cons, and what ultimately led you to decide to do it this way?
A little more time with fewer people. I think that would be the long and short of it. I think we're going to have everybody at the dev camp that we want to see. I think there's going to be fewer free agents, which was one of the motivations or one of the benefits of the larger dev camp that we had had every year that we've been here. I think we've got really good coverage in college for college free agents. So I think we felt we were in a good position there, and I think just to sort of tighten it right up so we can know a little bit more about a smaller group of people.
Since Connolly wasn't at Dev Camp last year, will he be on the roster for Dev Camp this year?
He was. He didn't play. No, he was at Dev Camp for a day or day and a half or whatever it was. Yes, to answer your question, he's been in town pretty much ever since the American League season ended, training, and has been on the ice, and he will be a full participant in Dev Camp this coming week.